Northeast Unified Elementary School District. It is Thursday, March 25th, and at 6 p.m. Are there adjustments others would like to make to the agenda? I was remiss sending out request notes to everyone, so you might want to take a quick peek. You will notice that principal reports are missing, but that was simply because, well, there are a couple of reasons, one of which we may get into. We do need to add an item under executive session. What shall we call that, Chris?
Administrative evaluations, update on process.
Okay, administrative evaluations, we will make a 6C with, and that will be executive session. Do we anticipate action, Chris?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Nope.
No action anticipated. That's what we've got. Does anybody have anything they would like to add? I don't see Jessa here, by the way, but I think she did one.
I'm here.
Oh, well, I am terribly sorry. You know, there's only so many spots in this stupid Zoom thing. Hold on, let me just make sure so I can see everybody. Yeah, I still don't see you, but I know you're there. All right, very good. All right, so with that clarified, Jessica, do you have any items to add to our agenda?
I don't know if it's an agenda item, but I was asked by someone a couple hours ago what Westminster's debt that they brought into the Unified Union District, how is that leaving with them?
We will briefly touch on that. I actually happen to, I think I know the answer, and we'll make that a 6, make that the 6C, and we'll make the what do we call it? Administrative review. The item after that. So,
yeah, administrative board update on administrative evaluation and survey process.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. I guess this is time to ask for public comments. I don't know who we have for public tonight, but this is your, I see Mary Fader is here, or Chris, or excuse me, David in stealth mode. I don't know, maybe both. I don't see anyone else. Did we have anything come to us, Chris, in the way of a written comment that you're aware of? Because I'm not.
No, I see nothing in the chat.
Nothing in the chat, and I got nothing. Did anybody get anything that they're asked to read? Then we're good. Now let's keep moving then. What's next? Chris, I can't see that. I got to pull the schedule back up. I was being spoiled for a second. Okay. Review and approve board minutes. Thank you. Let me go find my agenda. Here it is. So review and approve board minutes. Did everybody see them? Nicole did send them out earlier today. Cheryl, did you see them? Did other people see them?
Yes. Yeah, Jack, this is Cheryl. I actually think we had reviewed the February 11th minutes and approved them with the correction at the last meeting. And then she went ahead and sent out the March 11 minutes, but indicating that we ought not to approve those tonight since we had gotten them only today, I think.
All right.
But I'm happy to reapprove February 11th.
Well, I was trying to remember because when we met in March, I don't recall, and I don't think I saw in the minutes, the rough draft minutes, a review of those or a vote on it. So that I'm perfectly happy, since I think this is mostly bookkeeping, to put that off until the following meeting, and we can just have a whole bunch of minutes to read next time we gather together.
Jack, I think it's fine to approve the February 11 minutes. My
Oh,
sense
okay.
was I actually thought we had already done this.
Yeah,
So I move.
go ahead.
I move to approve the minutes of February 11.
All right. Are there any comments or objections or questions? Then I'll call the question and we'll start with Cheryl.
I approve. Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Jessa.
Yes.
All right. I'm assuming that since Ginger wasn't part of the meeting, that she's probably abstaining. But you know, you can object in general principle if you want. We'll consider them passed then. All righty, old business for discussion. Let's talk about the 6A, which is the requirements of the SPE regarding the March vote. Now this, we now have, as some of you may be surprised to find, because Melissa and Cheryl, you're on the committee that's going to be coordinating on behalf of this board with the Westminster representatives, the Westminster School Board, AKA. But there are a couple of things I did send to your attention. Some of the language in our interim articles of agreement. It is a little complicated because we've never approved those interim articles of agreement, but we've been operating by them, which is interesting point A. And interesting point B, in those articles, it does specifically refer to the right to withdraw, which I found shocking. I remember being told there was an Easter egg in the interim articles, and that was it. Clearly, I've talked to folks at AOE, and they're aware of it. It does suggest that it looks like we are supposed to notify the SPE according to it, as opposed to Westminster. And I would suggest to you that you get together and we can simply send it. We did last time vote to recognize the January and March votes to permit the separation. I would like a motion to authorize the chair and the members of the committee, that's you, Cheryl, and you, Melissa, to send a note to the SPE requesting a hearing, and we would presumably fill in the date in coordination with the Westminster school board reps. But I think that if they're waiting for us, we need to act, and I would assume that we would have Larry Slayson be part of that process. Does that seem like a reasonable approach?
Yeah, Jack, this is Cheryl. If I can comment.
I'm hoping you will.
Okay, thank you. So it was last evening that several of us, community members and members of the interim board that was appointed by the Westminster Select Board, participated in Westminster's Select Board meeting last evening. That Select Board did vote unanimously to ask the town's attorney, Larry Slayson, to do what is necessary to make an official request to the State Board of Education that this request to withdraw be put on the agenda.
Right.
So that's one action that will go forward. I don't yet know the timing on that, but I think it's important for this board to note that the town of Westminster has asked their attorney to do the research to do this in what they consider to be and he considers to be a proper manner. In addition, though, I think it does no harm, and it's not fully clear to me whether this board should also make that request. But I do think, because we know our position as a board has not been to advocate for the withdrawal, but rather to support and respect the votes of the towns. And Westminster has voted to withdraw. Athens and Grafton have subsequently voted to ratify that withdrawal. And now with that information in hand, this board could, I think, notify the State Board of Education that those actions have occurred. And then the other piece that I've read in some of the literature, and I don't have this based on any legal advice that I've been given, but I read in one article quoting John Carroll, the chair of the State Board of Education, that the certified vote from the town, I believe of Westminster, the vote to withdraw, we were supposed to wait, or the town was to wait 30 days. That time has passed, 30 days by which somebody could object, to the vote itself. That has not occurred. But after the 30-day period, then I'm told the certified, and again, I'm not sure if that's the proper term, but let's use that one, the certified voting results are to be sent to the Secretary of State. That's what I read in one article quoting John Carroll. And then the Secretary of State, as I read it, is to notify the chair of the State Board of Education. In our case, we haven't gotten legal advice about this, but it would make sense for us simply to write a letter, I would think, to John Carroll, the chair of the State Board of Education, and say, this is the circumstance, and that we understand Westminster will be forwarding to you or to the Secretary of State the certified results, and we want to be of assistance here. Our towns have voted, something to that effect.
I'm happy to write that. You're reminding me. Sorry. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Was somebody else going to speak? That's. Okay. I see Melissa and I say no. Okay, not right now. But I do think a letter from the chair on behalf of this board, just describing the facts as we know them and requesting the attention of the State Board of Education. So I'd be happy to make a motion to that effect, that the chair of this board send a letter to the chair of the State Board of Education describing the facts of the votes in the three towns and asking that the State Board put the matter on their agenda at their earliest convenience, and to let us know what additional information they might need. That would be my motion.
I'm happy to write that. I will, just as a point of information, CC both Will Senning at the Secretary of State's office and Larry Slayson and the chairs of the three towns involved, and see where that gets us. And I will probably ask for some helpful edits from a couple of you before it goes out, but we'll get it out sometime next week if this is approved. Any other discussion on this item? Any questions? Because I want to make sure everybody understands. And Ginger, this is all new, so you can ask all the questions you want.
I understand that the vote's going to the state board next, but if it's all approved, how does it look after that? Like, is Westminster a school completely on its own, or district, or is it going back to be part of a different one?
Okay. Let me walk you quickly through this. The way this would work is the Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District would remain as an entity.
Okay.
We're not appealing the state's. We've been there. We did that. So what this would be is saying that that both state law and the interim articles both hold for the right of communities to withdraw, either absolutely under one law or with the assurance that the educational, there's educational equivalency is preserved after the two districts are separate. We are not anticipating a great deal of, or that it's adversely affected we don't anticipate those will be material objections, because we have run we have both simultaneously run our system as a unified district and run the two schools sort of in parallel, in anticipation that this vote might occur at some future point. And now that it has, we're anticipating that we will provide documentation as needed. That there will be responsibility for our committee in conjunction with the Westminster Interim School Board and in conjunction with the advisory commissions of the two, Athens and Grafton, to make sure that everybody has their ducks in a row. And the chief marshal of the ducks, as far as I'm concerned, are Cheryl and Melissa. So that's kind of how I see that running. Marshal of ducks, it's a new term, I just came up with it. Anyway, so that's how we think that's going to go.
Mhm.
You know, when I talked to John at earlier this year, he said, "Be careful of the dog that caught the car." And he has said some things in his public statements that seem to leave the door open for an exclusive carve out for the Westminster situation, quite apart from what they might do elsewhere. And so we'll just have to see. You know, I have no expectations as to how it will go. If it does, there'll have to be a meeting to create, from the district's perspective, a separate Westminster board. I don't think that's going to be a particularly big deal. And there will have to be elections for that board. And I don't anticipate that to be a big deal either. And then if that all works, who knows? If that all works, I would anticipate that the four remaining members of the Unified Elementary School District would probably sit down and decide how we want to, if we want more members, and if we do, how to allocate them, because that's how I think that'll work. Charlie Hutchison, I see, is there. Any comment on any of this, Charlie, before I ask Cheryl and Melissa for more input?
I'm sorry, I
We just lost him.
We did, the prospect of having to speak. Cheryl, what else you got?
I was just going to add a couple more items of information in response to Ginger's question. One is that if and when the State Board of Education approves the withdrawal of Westminster to once again become its own town school district, it's certainly fully anticipated that Westminster would remain a part of the supervisory union, would continue to work closely with Athens and Grafton, with Rockingham, with the high school. We don't see any of those things changing. In fact, you know, it's a great pleasure to continue to work with everyone here and the other communities. So this is an action being taken by the voters to reinstate a local school board, but at the same time to stay an active member of the supervisory union and exercise all of our responsibilities in those ways. To the question, there are two other related questions. The town school board, the town select board, has been given advice by the town attorney that there could be an election from the floor of town meeting that's now scheduled for in-person May 15, I think. Don't hold me to the date, but I think it is May 15 in Westminster. And that the attorney has assured the select board that in contrast with the interim board that now exists, members of what could be called a permanent board could be elected from the floor there for the staggered terms, so that you didn't have everybody, you know, serving at the same time, that you would have the kind of successional work that's necessary to an effective board. The third item is that it may be, you can see that I just got disconnected. You can still hear me though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That I think it would be unlikely that all of this could fall into place by July 1. That would be the soonest that Westminster would officially have its own school district again. So keep that in mind, that we may still continue as the union board here, the unified board, for another year, and that the change for Westminster might not occur until a year from July. I don't know that yet. Just hold that thought. I've read in some other places, this is once again one article I read quoting John Carroll, that he thought doing something like this as soon as July 1 might be too optimistic. I don't know that. I'm just saying that's part of what I've read.
I would add to that, and then I'm going to recognize Melissa if she still wishes to be recognized. That in some ways we have to be extremely sensitive to the impact on the SU, the entire administration, and the finance folks. While we have jumped through a lot of hoops. Actually, they've jumped through a lot of hoops to make sure that we've kept, books as separate as possible to ease this transition. Anyone that thinks it's an easy transition has another thing coming. This is real work for their team. And I want us to be extremely mindful of that and attentive to that process. We want to make sure that we do that. If this is done, we do it in a timely manner, but we also don't want everybody to suddenly run around in circles with 10 days to go before the end of the fiscal year kind of stuff, because I wouldn't like that, and I don't think they would, as self-sacrificing a team as they may be. So we're going to play this puppy by ear, but yeah, there you go. So we will, and I may anticipate going to all of you to bring Mr. Slayson in to advise us, especially if this starts to look like it's happening, so that we work out issues like a conflict of interest and any separation stuff and what needs to be done before and after. These are all real issues, and we want to make sure that we have it all laid out so that we're not asking the entire SU to go find out for us, because again, they didn't vote for this, we did, and it's our responsibility. So, I did see your hand up at one point, and then we never asked. No, was that just okay? Anyone else with any questions or about any of this? All right, so we have an item on the floor. Do you want to restate your motion, Cheryl? And Cheryl, we've lost your voice. You still lost your voice. Well, then this is called, we're going to vote for what she said, because we've got Nicole taking notes. So I'm going to do a roll call, and I'm going to ask Cheryl, because I can't hear her, to just wave if she approves. Cheryl.
Oh, wait, I think you can hear me now.
Now I can.
Okay. Do you need me to restate the motion, or does Nicole have it? She probably has it.
Wouldn't mind.
The motion was simply that we move that the chair of this board send a letter to the State Board of Education outlining the facts of the votes in the three towns and requesting that the item of withdrawal of the proposed withdrawal of Westminster from this unified school board be put on the State Board of Education agenda.
All right. With that noted, we'll do the roll call. Lynn, how do you vote on this?
Yes.
That's an aye from Lynn. Ginger, first recorded vote.
I'll say yes.
All right, Melissa?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Jessa?
Yes.
And there we have it. So we've got unanimity. And let's move on to the next item on the agenda. And now I've got to go find where I put my agenda again. Hold on a second. Oh, that's even better. Negotiations. Negotiations is kind of an item that I think we should put in executive session, since it is an executive sessions item. So do we have any other items?
We did a 6C.
Yes, remind me the 6C, because I'm literally running around with 10 pieces of paper and seem to have mislaid the one I started with, which is terrible.
6C was the question of debt for Westminster.
Yeah, there we go. Debt for Westminster. Do you want to explain the nature of the query? Was it Jessa that had the question? Who was approached?
Oh, yes, that was me.
All right.
The question was that Westminster brought a not insignificant amount of debt, I think for the gym renovations they had, into the partnership, and it was divided accordingly tax-wise between the towns. And this person asked me, and I did not know the answer, if that debt will be exiting with Westminster.
No.
And I don't know if we've even thought about how to divide anything up yet.
Let me answer that as best I can, and I will defer to some extent to everyone else here. This is a to be determined, but on the other hand, this district at present also owns the deed for the Westminster Community School. And in the information sessions we had, I offered an opinion that I thought it would be likely that the new Westminster School District at the time of the division would be likely to want their building back and would likely to be willing to take on the debt associated with that building as part of getting the building back.
Did Westminster, the Grafton and Athens both sold their buildings to the town? Did Westminster do the same? I don't know if this district owns
They
that
did
building.
not. We are the holder of the deed.
Okay.
And as such, again, this is a forward-looking statement, as they say in law school, but it would be my anticipation that the newly forming Westminster School District would probably like their building back and probably would not have a major objection to taking on the debt associated with that building. It has to be said that at one point Grafton had that Westminster had some assets, cash assets that were rolled into our budget last year, as did Westminster, as did Athens and Grafton. So those are gone.
Yes. So I think last year, if you could also dig up the minutes, when we decided how to distribute the extra money that basically came from the Westminster budget, I believe we structured that in basically a tuition contingency fund, possibly. So that money was not used as a budget surplus to reduce taxes in all three towns.
I think that money was put into a contingency fund, but I think some of it was actually used, and I'll have to go back and check with Flora on this, because that was tuition money for the 7th and 8th tuitions. And I think that, but I will take a hard look at that and get back to folks. I generally, monies that were held over, not spent on year X, become surplus in year Y and recognized as that in year Z is the way it works for the state, because they they have a rather lengthy certification process. But let me walk offline through this with Flora and Chris. You and I will make that a note just to make sure that I've got this correct on that. But I think that money is gone, and I'm not sure that we could give it as a parting gift in any case, but we'll find out. So that's what I've got on that. Do you think that'll cover any questions people might have?
Yes, I think so. And yeah, if you could get that budgetary info. I know at the very least, we kept track of the specific dollar figure,
Right.
anticipating this very situation.
Yeah, that
So
was.
we can,
It would be my anticipation that that was in the budget approved last year, that contingency fund. It would be for this current operating year. Whatever is not spent in this current operating year would be on the cash balance as as a surplus normally, and therefore would be part of the revenue line for next year's budget. That's normally how it works, but I will want to make sure that I got that right. I've done a lot of these budgets for a lot of years. That's how I think it works, but
it is the 2 years behind. I
Right.
don't know if we can,
and I don't think there'd be a way of reallocating that into a deposit without violating something, but we'll make some subtle inquiries. So, there you go. But thank you for asking. I think those are all the public items we have this evening. I think everything else is executive session. Does anyone want to correct me on this?
I think that's accurate. I think you've covered everything, Jack.
All right. Then, and since we have an empty line for new business for discussion and action, this is where the public section will end after director's comments, at which point we'll go, what I hope is rather briefly on some of these, into executive session. So this is director's comments. Cheryl, do you have a director's comment?
Nothing more tonight. Thank you very much.
Melissa?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I had the opportunity as a parent to have a meeting with Liz, our new principal at Westminster, and she was absolutely wonderful and lovely to work with. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Lynn?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right. Jessa?
no, I would just like to say that our teachers and paras in Grafton are an amazing staff, and I would, after educating in over a full year of pandemic learning, just would like the community to offer them their support and that they have done a great job.
Thank you. Well, I saw a bunch of the kids and one of the teachers outside doing exercises, and I've got a joke about one of our teachers in a hula hoop, but we'll save it for later. I hope that when we meet next time, we'll be talking about how we get ourselves to 5-day a week, but we'll stay tuned, and we'll use Lynn and Chris to lead where they think we're at. And with that, let's go into executive session. Actually, I need a motion to go in executive session as I read my Robert's rules. Somebody want to give me a motion?
I move that we go into executive session.
It's a privileged motion. All in favor? We'll do roll call. Lynn?
Yes.
Ginger? I believe that was a yes. Melissa?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Jessa?
Yes.
All right, then we'll give our administration a moment to ask our friends at FACT and Mary Howard Fader and anyone else, and Charlie, if they'll